All right, guys. So today, for our last mini lecture in our flow chart, tracing the rise of terrorism, our focus is the creation of ISIS, the last piece of the puzzle. So you guys are working on filling out the orange section, kind of orange and black section of the flow chart today. And here we go. So to get all of this started, we're going to talk about the creation of ISIS, but we have to trace back a little bit, going back to when the United States invades Afghanistan. It makes bin Laden flee to Pakistan, and then there's other members of Al Qaeda as well too. One of those prominent Islamic militant members of Al Qaeda flees to Iraq. So we're over here in Afghanistan, and Osama bin Laden flees over to Pakistan. Another one of these Islamic militants flees over to Iraq, and that Islamic militant that I am referring to is Zarqawi. Zarqawi had been a part of Al Qaeda, and now he has decided to flee over to Iraq. While he is in Iraq, he creates another extremist organization, kind of an offshoot of Al Qaeda, known as Al Qaeda in Iraq, or AQI. This is an organization that is associated with Al Qaeda, kind of loosely associated with Al Qaeda, but he is in charge of this. He is the leader of AQI. Now, AQI is kind of created during that time period and kind of right after the United States disbanded the Iraqi government, the army, and also captured Saddam and killed Saddam. So, it leaves this kind of chaotic moment in Iraq that allows AQI to get some more power because the people that were part of the army were upset that the Iraqi army was kind of disbanded and re-put together. And a lot of those people fled and went and joined AQI, Al Qaeda in Iraq. Now, Al Qaeda in Iraq then also starts viciously killing anyone who is not a Sunni Muslim. So, when looking at terrorist organizations, most of them, like Al Qaeda and ISIS and those organizations in which I'm talking about, they are Sunni Muslim. There's two different types of Muslims. There's Sunni Muslims and Shia. They are Sunni Muslims. Now, they start viciously killing all the infidels. Okay? They start killing Americans. They start killing anyone that is not Sunni Muslim. And an example here is the execution of Nick Berg. Nick Berg, which is the guy in the orange here, he was from the United States and was over in Iraq. He was a radio repairman, and he is captured by members of AQI. This guy right here in the middle that has the knife, that is Zarqawi. And in this video, he is going to viciously chop off the head of Nick Berg with that knife and then post that video to the internet for everyone to see. So we're not just talking about simple executions. Like, these are vicious executions that are posted on the internet for everyone in the world to see, which it's like, whoa, that's a big wake-up call. That's a lot more extreme than what we were seeing prior to. And actually, Al Qaeda, who is associated with AQI, they're kind of put together. Al Qaeda's like, whoa, like maybe guys should calm down there. Zawahi, the guy said that took over Al Qaeda after Osama bin Laden died, he actually wrote a letter to Zarqawi. It's called the Z to Z letter, and it's like, hey, I think you should kind of calm down on what you're doing. It might be a little bit too extreme. And of course, Zarqawi just goes ahead and ignores that letter. But they are doing all these vicious executions during the Iraqi civil war. It's a very chaotic time. So over in America, we're seeing all this civil war going on. It's chaos. Then these public executions on the internet start coming to play. And it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So the United States' response to all of this is that they are going to surge troops in 2007, meaning we are going to send more troops into Iraq in 2007 and try to stabilize the region and especially stabilize the government of Iraq. So because the United States starts coming into Iraq, that leads a lot of the members of AQI to kind of start fading. They are not as prominent. The United States comes in and they start to stabilize things, but AQI just doesn't disappear completely. A lot of members start going to this neighbor state over here, known as Syria. So they start fleeing to the state or to the country next door, to Syria. So we haven't heard the end of these people, but for the time being, from about 2007 to 2010, 2011, 3 or 4 years, it's kind of calmed down for a minute. But they are rebuilding and they are going to reemerge as something different. So In 2011, we start to see traces of a new terrorist organization start forming up in Syria and becoming more prominent. But in 2013, they officially pronounced themselves and reemerge as an organization known as ISIS. Okay, and so this should be familiar to you. This is what we were working towards. So essentially, AQI reemerges in Syria, known as ISIS, and ISIS stands for the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. Also, you might have heard of the word heard of ISIL before. Obama referred to them as ISIL a lot of the times. They can be referred to ISIS or ISIL. ISIL stands for the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. The Levant is just another name for that region over in Syria. So now we have the creation of ISIS in 2013. Essentially, you guys should know, very similar to some terrorist organizations that we've seen, but still kind of cruel and extreme. Well, of course they're cruel, but they're cruel and extreme. But their goal, just like every other terrorist organization over there, Islamic terrorist organization, is to create a caliphate or caliphate. It's an Islamic state. So you can see an example of what they want the Islamic caliphate to look like. This is the symbol of ISIS. It's oftentimes black background with the prayer of Islam in the back in Arabic and white. So this is what they are trying to accomplish, and they are now led by a man known as Abu Akbar or Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. And this is an earlier picture of him here. This is a later picture of him. So he is going to be the new leader of ISIS and trying to get things accomplished for that terrorist organization. Actually, we just killed him. I think it was either in 2019, 2020, but he is no longer alive. But for the longest time, he is the leader of ISIS, and he's the one orchestrating everything for ISIS. So, looking at a little bit of review here. So we're starting with the creation of ISIS, and so we talked about when Bin Laden escapes to Pakistan, another guy goes to Iraq, and that other guy is this Islamic militant here, Zarqawi. And I mentioned this in the little flow chart, but Zarqawi was actually killed by an airstrike in 2006. So we do go and kill him and bomb him. But anyway, he is known for creating AQI, Al Qaeda in Iraq. And we talked about how this was created during that chaotic time in Iraq and how they start viciously killing people. And this was the picture of Nick Berg. And because of all this craziness, the United States responds with a surge of troops in 2007. And then that makes some of AQI flee to Syria, and they emerge in Syria around 2011, 2013 as ISIS. And remember, the goal of ISIS is to revive the caliphate, which is an Islamic state. And this organization is led by Baghdadi. So, that is everything, guys. We've traced terrorism starting in 1979 with the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, and now we've went all the way to 2013. We've shown the rise of Al Qaeda and the 9/11 attacks, to the war in Afghanistan and the war in Iraq, to the creation of AQI, and to the transformation into ISIS. So now you guys will be looking at an Ed puzzle to see what is the deal with ISIS in Syria and how does that connect to the United States, all of that kind of stuff. So talking about Assad, Syria. And yeah, so hopefully you guys were able to get your whole flow chart completed. That is the last part of our mini series. Have a good one.